Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about 5 unorthodox but effective writing tips you can use to help with your research writing, whether it's your thesis, your report, or even that all-important paper. So without further ado, let's get into number 1. But what I used to do in my PhD thesis was actually looking at starting with the discussion conclusion for each chapter and then work backwards, hence writing backwards. So I used to talk about the actual really good juicy bits at the end and then work on what story do I need to write in order to get to that place, as opposed to starting with the story, trying to find a way into it and then discussing. Especially with research writing, we know with a lot of things, because we've gathered the data, we've done the experiments, we know what the ending is. So we can write the ending and look at, okay, what rhetorical questions, what cue points can we add with the story behind it to get to that really nice segue into that discussion. So that's something I did quite a lot, whether it's your reports, whether it's your thesis, whether it's your papers. Start with the discussion and conclusion, and then you know what bits you need to actually write in your introduction and in your meta section, in your kind of continuous prose throughout that chapter to get to that ending. Number 2 is all about talking to yourself. Instead of writing, talk to yourself. Now, I did this a lot because, as you can tell, I cannot stop talking. Hence, I made these YouTube videos and Instagram posts, as you can see over here. But what I did is that whenever I had that writing block with writing, I decided that it was articulation that was, maybe I was too exhausted, had too much on my mind. But I did have some really cracking thoughts that I needed to capture. So what I used to do was just record me thinking out loud, talking out loud, and then later on, when I'm maybe in a better mood or have a bit more time, I could actually just transcribe what I was talking about into cohesive sentences to form some writing. So I wasn't losing progress, I wasn't losing time. I was actually making use of the writing, just not by actually writing, by actually talking. And then when I did that, I was like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean. And then I would just think about some really interesting thoughts about, if I talked about chapter 7 like that and then I did this and this, then that would actually make it easier to write this from that paper from 2014 and 15. And I just captured these ideas because I maybe was too tired to write. And then, as I mentioned, maybe even the week after, or even several weeks after, because you've actually talked about it and you preserved it on your, voice memos, whichever phone you use. There is a voice recorder phone now, voice recorder app on most phones. That was enough, and that actually helped me to make more progress whenever I hit that writing block. Number 3 is all about drawing something instead of writing. Now, this is one of my favorites because I'm not actually quite creative. I want to, find connections and look at commonalities and trends and patterns. And sometimes you can't do that initially while writing. You need to map it out. You need to draw a scheme or schematic diagram. And you can use your iPad, and I've got my iPad over here. You can use your pen on the iPad, or you can use any piece of paper even. And what I did is that helped me to visualize actually how to cohesively make a flow or structure for a chapter or for a certain paragraph, especially when talking about pathways or something quite complicated that I need to maybe visualize first. And that's a key element of this tip, is to be able to visualize what you want to write by looking at ways to draw out that area, draw out that mechanism, draw out that potential thought process. Then once you visualize it, it's actually a lot easier for you than to start writing about it, because you've got you've got something to look at. You can have it on the second screen, and then you can actually start to write about okay, yep, let's write about this, that, as opposed to trying to conceptualize it in your mind and write at the same time, which can be difficult. Number 4 is quite a common one, but something we need to discuss a little bit more because it can be incredibly powerful, and that's changing where you write. Now, you may be in a good flow, but over a few weeks you might get bored of that place, or it gets distracting, or it's not as stimulating as you need it to be in order to make more effective processes and progress with your writing. And it's not just about changing the scene so then you can write better. It's actually changing the scene so then when you look at that anticipation of going somewhere new, let's say it's a different coffee shop, you're excited about going somewhere new, you're looking forward to it, and that anticipation can drive as momentum to be in a good state, an enjoyable state, to allow the creative juices to flow so then you can write better. So it's not just because you're changing the scene. You're actually providing your brain and your body essentially some good happy thoughts and good enjoyable thoughts, because you may be trying a new coffee or a new coffee shop or a new environment, and then you might be in a better mood and kind of a more stable and calmer mood to enjoy that writing process, because you're not attaching it to anxiety, you're not attaching it to some sort of stress, because a lot of the time we don't realize when we go back to the same place again and again, our mind is not in the right place. So going somewhere fresh, going somewhere new, and attaching that new feeling, that anticipation feeling, as a good stepping stone and a good marker to be able to write better, is something I found to happen quite a lot, even now as a postdoc. If I'm trying to write something or even analyze something, go somewhere new, go somewhere different, or go to the same coffee shop or go somewhere different, and in that same coffee shop, and then I'm enjoying myself, I'm trying something new perhaps in terms of a drink, and without realizing I'm in a better mood to do that writing. Now, number 5, last but not least, I'm sure I have many writing tips on this YouTube channel, but this is actually very important because it's actually a bit controversial, but I think it makes sense to you. Hopefully I can do my best to explain it, and that's actually, don't make writing a priority. So you're like, Aamir, it is a priority. We need to finish our thesis, or we need to find that paper. And I agree. I'm not saying that you don't, it's not important. But when we add too much burden on the priority or the importance, it can go against us in terms of our mood and our feeling to start writing. Especially with writing, because it's a very creative process, and it's very delicate in terms of our mind, that it's very easy to distract ourselves. It can be very difficult to get into that flow state, something that we see a lot about. I'll link some videos in the description in terms of what that flow state is. And what I found was, when I was writing a lot during my PhD thesis, I knew there was importance, but I didn't overburden myself with a word count, with chapter deadlines, with make sure I get this and this done. I didn't add anything extra that would make it more daunting, more overwhelming. The only thing I said to myself is, just keep consistent. That's all. I didn't even give myself writing time that I need to write for 6 hours a day or 10 hours a day. I had none of that. So it's kind of like I'm not making it a priority technically, but I am making it important. But I'm just making sure that I'm being consistent. So make sure that you're maybe writing about this a little bit and just keep it going. I'm not adding anything extra. I'm not making sure that, right, I need to get this done by that time so I can submit that deadline. No. I started really early with writing, and that allowed me to make it not as much of a daunting priority as maybe other people might before and even right now. And that allowed me to utilize my creative juices a lot more. It allowed me to be not anxious and worried about meeting a deadline, and it allowed those thoughts to come through, so that I was able to write a lot better by just telling myself, just keep consistent. That's it. Just make progress. And the really important thing here is that sometimes we are writing chapter 3, for example, in your thesis, but on your mind you've got some really interesting thoughts about chapter 7. So what I did was, I didn't cancel that thought. I didn't, say, no, I need to do chapter 3 by imposing deadlines and restrictions that should be there. I just stopped chapter 3. I went to chapter 7. I made progress there. I didn't sit down and say, I'm going to write chapter 3. I just sit down and open my thesis, say, right, keep consistent. Look at the bullet points that I make. Talk about bullet point expansion a lot on this channel and Instagram page. And I just made progress. And if I got some thoughts about another one, I'll go and make progress there. And as the weeks go on, as the months go on, I realize I'm actually making a lot of progress. The chapters are now filling up. There's not much left to write. And that allowed me to be more effective in my writing process than I actually previously thought, especially when I did my undergraduate work, when I did the early parts of my PhD. So hopefully that's actually a good way for you to look at your writing process if you've not started. And if you have started, maybe you can adopt that process to help you. Guys, these were some slightly unorthodox tips, but I do hope you think that it is effective. If you think it is, do drop a like and drop a comment about which tip you actually enjoyed the most, or you think you will benefit the most. And if you're new to the channel, you can consider subscribing. You can have more tips, more advice on your screen on a weekly basis. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm actually close to 10k, which would be a really nice milestone. You can see it over here as well. And my newsletter, where I share some more tips and advice and more updates on things, especially some big things coming up in the next few months. You can see it in the video description down below. But thank you so much for watching, and I shall hopefully see you in the next one. Take care.